I'm going to review a book called The Dark Holds No Terror, and it's written by Shashi Deshpande. My last video was about a book called A Matter of Time, and it was also written by Shashi Deshpande. So I have been reading a lot of her books lately, and not only lately, but I have always been a fan of hers. So I will be preparing videos, a tailor-made video specifically for about Shashi Deshpande's book, and I'm gonna explore and write my own, talk about my own opinion about why do I like Shashi Deshpande's work and why she is one of my favorite authors, and what really attracts me towards her writing. So I will be talking about that, and I'll be making preparing a specific video for that, where I will be reviewing all her books, and it won't be a detailed review as such. It would be just like a overall, like a literally a review, but a very light review where I won't be talking in deep about it, but I would be moreover talking about her writing style, then whatever the motives, what are different perspectives she has tried to explore in her writing, and why I feel that her writing is really strong. So coming back to our today's, so The Dark Hold No Terrors it was not really specifically suggested to me by anyone. I just went into I think I have said in my previous videos as well that I love to go and randomly check out books, and whichever I just go through, and if I feel like oh yeah, I like the premises, so I'm gonna read it. So I usually just like buy them. So that's what happened in this also. So I just went and I was like going through different books and all. I was like, oh, I like this premise, so I'll read. So that's how I got this book, and honestly, after looking at the title, I had a different, sort of what do you say, different opinion, or probably, and I had different different conceptions in my mind. But once I started reading it, oh my god, it was totally different. And then in between there was a point where I felt, oh god, okay, what just happened? So there's a lot of twists and turns, I would say, in this book, and not exactly, I would say not exactly a lot, but there is a point where you would say, oh, did that really happen? So you would feel that. Now about this book, firstly writing about that, actually you guys should read this book. So I think people who are literature lovers or students who are aspiring, they really like literature and they are studying literature in their graduation or masters. I'm sure that people who are studying literature in their masters, like doing email literature and stuff, they must be already aware with her book. So this is moreover like a recommendation for, I would say, graduate students who are thinking of doing their majors, because the way just like I did my majors in economics, so there are students who might be planning to do majors in literature. So for them, I think it's a very good starter, especially if you are in 11th grade as well, 11th, 12th grade. It's not supposed to be that you have to be in graduation year, and so that's not you have to be in senior college as such. Even if you are a 11th high school student, still you can manage this book, because it's really easy. First of all, that you don't have to have that that it's not that hard to read, or it's not really that tough. So it's simple, but it has deep meanings. As you can say, it's literature, so there is always an understory to it, and you cannot just say that okay, whatever happens in front of is just an upper layer. You cannot just it's when it comes to literature, and specifically such books which are feminism based, or like that, or socialistic issues based. So you have to think about it, and you have to understand and explore the ideas. So I'll talk about the thematic, I will talk about gradually in this video about the thematic concerns in this book, and those are not all the thematic concerns I will be exploring right now. The one which I felt that which I was like I could recognize those thematic concerns, I will be talking about those, and that also I won't be talking in completely in detail, because that would make this video way too long, and I don't want you guys to be bored, or for if you want to explore such ideologies, you will always have access to research papers, because there are many literature researchers who have academicians who have tried to explore and understand Shashi Deshpande's writing. So you will get a lot of material online or in the library. So I will be putting in the description description section below most of the reference links where you can go and read the articles and research papers, where you will understand, that what different people have different opinions and what do they feel about Shashi Deshpande. Also in this video, not all the ideologies which I'm going to talk about, or all the thematic concerns which I'm going to talk about, are what I felt. Most, there are like three, I would say 2-3 ideologies which I felt, because I was going through a lot of material and I was reading about it, that what are other perspectives, and I was trying to explore that. So when I came to know, oh yes, this is also a perspective which I can look for, and yes, she also talks about this in this book. So you may find that. So I will be putting all those links in the description box below. You can go and check it out, and please let me know in the comment section. So coming back to the writing style, it's very easy. You don't seem that it's, don't just feel like, oh, it's a very heavy book. It's not a heavy book. You can complete it within a day or a 2 day. Like you would not require more than a day or two. That's I'm sure about it. Even a person who is a beginner, it's not a heavy book and it won't take time, because in fact it's a very interesting book, and there's a lot of it's like a lot of, not exactly a thriller sort of suspense, but a suspense which would be like you want to know what's happening next, and what is she trying to do, and what is she going to do about it, whether it's there are certain aspects, certain things happening around her, so how is she going to tackle it. So that is, so you won't be feeling it's very heavy, it's very light, and I think you will, in fact not even I think, I feel that people who are literature lovers and students or readers who really like to read about feminism, who like to read about books which are, influenced by social issues, and they talk about the dysfunctional society we live in. So if you are a reader, if you love that genre, it's like a go-to book for you, and you can read it n number of times. Okay, it's like, it's not gonna be like I have to just read it once and I will be like, oh, now I'm bored about it. That's not gonna happen. You can read it n number of times, and even after years and years and years, you will still feel that it's a relevant book, especially people living in India. I cannot really vouch for people living out of India, because cultural context out of India, I have no really that much of idea, because I've never been there, so I have no idea about it. But I, living in India, I know that, what are the cultural contexts here, and what are the cultural barriers, how the psyche of the people are, so the society. So I think it's very relevant over here, and you can still, like, you will feel it relevant, and I think it's a very thought-provoking book, because it will make you to think about it. There are various issues which will make you to think about it. Now, what I like about this book is that it's very empowering. All the women characters in this book are very empowering. Like, not all, there are one or two which you might feel, they're not that empowering, but they're just like, they are more of a submission and submissive, like more of passive sort of characters. But if the main women characters of this book, which is the Saru, well, her name is Sarita, but she is called out as Saru, and her mother. So these two characters, they are very strong, and they are strong women characters. One thing which happens in Shashi Deshpande books is she always try to portray, and her books always have strong women characters. Most of her books will always have strong women characters. So if you read, you just realize, oh wow, the women in her books are empowered. They are truly empowered. But at the same time, that what is the dilemma they face while they are living in a society. Now this book in a very beautiful way also tries to capture the transition between the traditional society to the modern society. So how people are trying to adapt, and how there are still people who have not adapted to modern society, modern culture, modern tradition, as we can say. So here, when it comes to modern tradition or modern culture, it's moreover about being influenced by the Western culture, I would say, because if you look at the setting of this book, it's before 2000. So people, the things were very different in India before 2000, especially with respect to women. So you can associate that, and you will realize that yes, it's different. and you see how characters are trying to adapt to the changes in the society, and how they are even trying to adapt the changes happening within themselves. So how they are they being acceptive? So you will have those questions in your mind, that whether is Saru really accepting what is happening around her, or is she being in a state of denial, or she's being delusional. So you'll explore that ideas. Now about the thematic concerns, the very thing which I really liked about this book, like that was just like the first takeaway I felt after reading the entire book, I felt was that the idea of darkness. The darkness is not subjective. That just darkness is not just like, that you just turn off the lights and that's dark. Where there's no light around and that's dark. No. So it's not about that how we define darkness. It's more over abstract in nature, I would say, and how darkness is not outside us. So Shashi Deshpande tries to tell in this book that how darkness is not outside a person, like externally, but it also, you can have darkness within yourself, in your mind, and how that really affects, and how that is more important than being a dark outside. If you have darkness inside you, how is that going to affect you as a personality? How is that going to influence your actions? So that talks so she explores that idea, which I really like, because as far as I have read the books, I've never really come across any book which tries to explain darkness so beautifully. So you will find subtle references of it. So I won't be telling you any references, because that will again lead to spoilers. So I will try to avoid spoilers, so that it just doesn't ruins your experience of reading. Then the other thematic concern which I would think, I think is about, as I said earlier, the women characters in this book are very strong. At the same time, if you look at the men characters, they're not that strong. Like it's a very beautiful way she has portrayed it, how she has not only met women, the victim of this society, but also men, the victim of this society. Like she tells us that it is a patriarchal society, and there are certain expectations from women as well as men. So this is very beautifully, I would say, explored in this book, and how I can give you, and I'll give you a small instance about it, that how because when you will read that point, and when you will read to that specific point in the book, you'll realize, oh yes, this resemblance, and this does convey that Saru is a doctor, and earlier she was she wasn't given any sort of a status, but later, because she's doctor, later over a period of time, people start recognizing her and her work, and how she just starts getting recognized more than her husband, and somehow she becomes professionally successful as well compared to her husband. A husband whose name is Manohar in this book, and she calls him Manu. So she becomes, so in a way it's like she is successful than Manu, and how this is somehow this affects Manu, because he doesn't show it, or he doesn't just say it that he has a problem with she being a doctor. And there are and you will find it in that book, you will find it that because there is a time when she directly confronts him about, like not exactly confronts him, but you can say there is a subtle confrontation over there, that she talks about that I want to leave everything, and I want to stay at home and look after the kids, and like she wants to live her professional life. And when he talks about that, do you really think that we will be is it possible for us to take care of our kids, and to live in the standard of living we are having right now, to maintain that, if you leave your job, if you leave your profession, and you just like don't, you just look after kids and look after the house, if that is going to happen. And this just talks about that at one point he realizes that she is somehow become the breadwinner of the house, but on the same point, it also becomes the point that where he is insulted by that fact that she earns more than him, and somewhere down the line it affects him, and that's how he tortures her. Because this book talks, sort of talks also about the sexual abuse in the, so he sexually abuses her, but that again also being ignorant of the fact that I am being ignorant of the fact that Manu is sexually abusing Saru. So it's a very I can say, I will tell you, it's like a two sides of the coin. And it also talks about how a person can be from, when a person talks, but that's not really, you may not be sure about what, like the way he's talking right now, you may not be sure about that the whatever he's talking, he has the same thing in his mind. So there are two different things, there can be two different things, and that also talks about how multiple perspectives a person has, and moreover how multiple sides a person has. So that is a point which I think it's beautifully explained in this book, and Shashi Deshpande beautifully conveys that. So they're talking about the patriarchal setup in this book. So somewhere down the line, that even how women who are earning more than a husband, it becomes a problematic situation, especially for women. So she actually tells us, the book actually tells us that how men are also trapped in this society, and they are not only women who are victim of this society. Men are also victim of this society, because they are also being accepted of, they are also being, I would say, they are also being expected of certain, there are certain expectations from men as well. So that somehow also makes them the victim of this society, of the dysfunctional, then patriarchal society. Also, a very big thematic concern in this book is about gender discrimination. So how Saru has a brother called Dhruva, and he dies when he's young. There is an incident which happens. I'm not going to talk about that, what is the incident which happens, because you, in the starting of the premise itself, in the at the back of the book only, you realize that Dhruva has died. So I'm not really giving you any sort of a spoiler over here. So in the you just know that, from start itself, that he has died young, and her mother, she constantly keeps on taunting her, or she constantly keeps on cursing Saru that why did Dhruva die? You should have died instead. And this somehow just shows that there is a lot of gender discrimination between Dhruva and Saru, but obviously when he was alive, and also how a mother, Indian females, like in Indian society, how male child is given a lot of preference and how they are felt important. So it also talks about that how gender discrimination is very prevalent in our society, and how she is always preferring her mother, how she is always preferring Dhruva. Now it also explains, and also at the same time, when we talk about the gender discrimination, this gender discrimination is also very much it's very much visible and evident if you look at the relationship, if you try to explore and perspective of look at the relationship between the father and because somehow father and Dhruva, they Saru's father and Dhruva, they both share a very strong bond, and how he keeps on talking with him, and when he died, it was almost like there was a silence in their home and no one really paid attention towards Saru. And also how this tells us that from the point where Dhruva's birthday is almost felt like a festival in their house, but Saru's birthday is completely ignored and it just feels like a normal day. So that also tells us about the gender discrimination prevalent in the story. Also, they have one more character in the book. It is called Madhav, and he is like sort of stays like a paying guest or just like a rent, because Saru's mother, she has died, and all this Saru's mother has died and her father is staying alone in their house now. So he has Madhav staying with him, and it also tells us that how he does not share a very good bond with her daughter, but he has a very good bond with Madhav, who is not a blood relation, or who is nothing to him. Like if you look from the outside perspective, like external perspective, you will feel like, oh, they are not even related and still they are so close, as if Madhav is his own son. That is the treatment they both, that is the bond they both share. And the Sahana, it actually tells you that how Saru being his daughter, they hardly talk. They literally hardly talk. The only thing they talk about is probably food, then probably just hi, hello. They're just normal exchanges made. That's it. Like literally, that's it. And what happens is Saru also. There is also a problem with the fact that in the story where because she marries Manohar against her parents' will, so it's sort of she breaks all the ties with her parents, and she comes to know about her mother's death from someone else, and her parents don't tell her. Even her father doesn't measure, her father doesn't care to inform Saru that her mom is no more. So that also tells about the relationship they both share, and the dilemma and distance in the relationship between Saru and her parents. It also talks about that. So this all basically subtly just tells you that there is a lot of gender discrimination in the our society, and how it affects mental psyche, how it affects one's actions. It tells us about that. Then one of the other thing I would like to say in this about this book is also about that how throughout the book, gradually, like throughout the book, Saru is trying to find herself. Now, even she is trying to adapt to modern society. She has been brought up into the traditional setup, and she's also trying to adapt to a modern society. So modern changes, modern culture, she's trying to adapt to it, and at the same time she's also posing questions of to the patriarchal setup. She's constantly asking, she's constantly analyzing each and every incident which happened with her in that home. What were the there's also this constant comparison between her and her mother. She tries to look at the way she, at one point she has that question that whether I always felt that she was about her mother, she had certain perceptions about her mother, but whether somewhere down the line is she also doing the same thing. And also there is a very interesting point of view I would try to like Shashi Deshpande has tried to convey here, is that there is this constant comparison by Saru, where the relationship between Saru and Dhruva, her brother, is compared with the relationship with her two children, which is Renu and Abhi. So Renu is she's a elder child, and Abhi is a younger child. And how just the way like Sarita, because she was not really comfortable, like somewhere down the line she didn't have a very strong bond with Dhruva, and so she's constantly trying to analyze her relationship with Dhruva and comparing that relationship between Renu and Abhi's. Like, is whether Renu and Abhi's relationship is also like that, bittersweet, or how is it? So it also tells us about the various perspectives the book goes through, and how this changes. Like she having, because she always felt that that she has a certain relationship with Dhruva because of her parents, because there was always preference given to Dhruva, as opposed to even she does not have any specific preference between, like she is not being discriminating between Abhi and Renu. Still Renu has a certain perception towards her younger sibling. So how sometimes even when a parent is not doing, how same things can happen, and how I would say it's like a different multiple perspectives, I would say, and how it's like it also talks about the cause and effect, I would say. Then the thing which I felt about is the women empowerment. So yes, as I said earlier in the starting of the video about that, how the characters in Shashi Deshpande's novels are very strong and opinion, like they are very strong and dominating, in fact. So similarly, the relationship between her mother and her father is also sort of the same kind, where her mother, because if you look at the story from the outside point of view, like you just read plainly, you realize, oh, her father is a dominating word, but no, there are some references where you will feel, oh no, her father is a dominating one, but no, it's not like that. Her mother has always been the person who is a very dominating one, because whenever she curses Saru, her father, though he never finds Saru guilty for Dhruva's death, but still, whenever Saru's mother is always some or the other way trying to curse the Saru, and she is not really behaving good with her, and they have bad treatment towards her, still her father never really objects her mother, and in fact he's a person who just follows her mother whatever she says and just do it like that. It's almost like that. So it also tells about how Saru's mother is a very dominant and a strong woman in in her father and mother relationship. So it talks about how women are strong in this. On the same side, when we talk about the patriarchal setup, so there is Saru has a friend called Nalu, and she has one more friend. Those are her college mates. So one is Nalu and other is Smita. And Smita's character is very important. It hardly comes for like a 4-5 pages, I guess, in the book. I am not sure about the pages, but she hardly comes in, like there is only one chapter, and not only the entire chapter is dedicated to her, I would say. She comes for just a small period where you understand that what is the total life of Smita, where she has completely surrendered herself to her husband, and how her husband has also changed her name. And here this is the point which actually tells us about how Shashi Deshpande has introduced the idea of identity crisis, like how women in India or women in our society face the problem of identity crisis, where women have to change their name after marriage, where their original name has been taken away from them. It's like sort of like that, and how she has to adapt to new name, and how in the same case, whereas Smita's husband, he does not even like anyone calling Smita, because after marriage her name is changed, and she's called I guess it's Nilanjali, but her short form is Anju, and he does not like anyone calling her Smita. Also, she does not have economic independence and freedom. So whatever, if she has to do anything, if she has to have any expenses, she has to always ask for money from her husband. And this also shows about how there is a lack of economic freedom, there is lack of economic independence, freedom of speech in our society, and how sometimes women are expected, not even sometimes, it's in fact often women are expected to surrender themselves to their husbands. They're expected to do that, and they're not expected to ask any questions, not criticize it, not analyze it, anything. They don't know, even it is expected that women are not only even supposed to give their opinions or talk about it or have a freedom of speech. There is a lack of freedom of speech. So from Smita's character you understand the specific patriarchal setup we live in. Also, the idea of patriarchal setup is a very big ideology in this book, because the entire book almost comes into that genre, I would say, because the same idea that the women are expected to surrender to their household. At the same time, Saru's mom also from the beginning itself tries to tell Saru that she is also tries to she's also tries to keep on saying in the house that in their hope that you have to get married, and then you are not going to be at home, you are not going to stay with us, you are going to be married and you will go away. But it is different with Dhruva, he is going to stay with us. Also, it also talks about the double standards the Indian society, our society is, where Indian mothers, when they have a son, they expect a dowry from dowry, but at the same time when they have a daughter, they don't want to give a dowry. So she also talks about, because how Saru is not good looking, and then if she goes out, she is already not good looking, and if she goes out and plays in the sun, she will become more dark, and then we may have to give a lot of dowry. So she talks about that, and how this tells about that there's this double standards, I would say it's a double standard, and how Indian mothers have that two sides about how their perspective changes when situation changes. It's just like that. So it talks about that, and this also comes under the patriarchal setup, I would say. One more ideology which I felt in this book is about, oh wait, before moving to the another ideology, I was talking about her friends. So there's another friend which is called Nalu. So what happens is, Nalu is sort of a person who constantly keeps on criticizing the entire marriage institution, in fact, and she talks about how you are not supposed to surrender yourself and you have to be strong and you have to talk about it. What do you feel? You should be having opinions and stuff. And what happens once is, Nalu actually invites asks Saru to give a speech to her students, because she's a teacher or something, and she wants Saru to give sort of a speech about, because she's a doctor and successful doctor, so she wants Saru to give a speech and advise students and motivate them and stuff. So what happens is, and that is a very important point as well in the book, because it talks about that how Saru just sums up the entire male's insecurities and like the entire, probably the motive of this book as well, because she tells in the book that I'll use that sentence which she uses, not exactly, it's not a quote, but I'll try to sum it up. So she says that marriage is unbalanced equation where A plus B is not equal to B plus A. Like, she tells that if your husband is 5'4", then you have not, then her wife is not supposed to be more than 5.3. Her height is not supposed to be more than 5.3. And in a similar way, she also tells her if her husband is earning, suppose I'm giving an example because I don't really remember the exact figure from the book. So I'm giving an example how she tells that your husband is supposed to earn more than you, and you're not supposed to earn more than your husband. You're always supposed to be lesser than your husband, and that is how you're going to have a happy marriage. And somewhere down the line, she talks about her marriage, because in her marriage, she somewhere down the line becomes the successful one, and someone who is better at all the things. And this somehow creates a male insecurities and male ego in Manu. And that's how the sexual abuse just starts in her life. And therefore she talks about that how this is not a happy marriage, and if you want to be in a happy marriage, you need to be lesser than your husband, and you cannot be earning more than your husband in specific. You cannot be more recognized by your with compared to your husband. You are not supposed to recognize more. He is supposed to be recognized more. You should be known as his wife, and not he should be known as your husband. So I guess that as well. So it talks about that how she gives a mathematical a mathematical example for that, how that is an unbalanced equation. So that is one point I would say. Then the other ideology which I felt about this book is how profession, as well as from Saru's perspective as well, how profession as well as like education, we can say, is being the escape, and it's like a way of escapism. She's trying to escape through profession, like she's trying to escape through education and trying to reject social and patriarchal boundaries. So during her childhood, during Saru's childhood, what happens is she comes across a very confident doctor, and that's when she decides that she also wants to become a doctor. And she felt that the societal boundaries which she's trapped in, if she goes on to become a successful doctor and be successful in education and have some career, then that would bring confidence in her. She would become more confident and be happy about it, and she will break off from the societal barriers. And that's how it also tells about how modern society, because if you will hear, there are a lot of articles you will come across where, and you also often people talk about it, that when we talk about empowering women, the most one thing which comes with empowering women, the association, is the women have to be educated. If you want to empower women have to be educated. If you want to have women break off some of the societal barriers, come out of that patriarchal setup, then they have to be educated, they have to stand on their own feet, they have to start earning, they have to be economically independent, they have to be socially independent, they also have to have freedom of speech, freedom of thinking and stuff. So when we talk about modern society, I guess this also shows how there is a transition between traditional setup towards the modern setup as well. Then I think the other part in this book is also about being focusing on yourself. So what happens, and this is I think was evident through Madhav's character, when there are some crises at his home and there are certain expectations from him, and what happens is he doesn't want to do it. Like, he understands the expectations, but at the same time he doesn't want to spoil his life for it, and he doesn't want to give up his ear because he's preparing for examinations, and he doesn't want to give up on his exams because there are some crises at his home. So it's like he wants to focus on his life. And this somewhere down the line also tells us that how at the end there is a point where Saru also feels that it's her life and she has to take a charge of her life, and that what's happened with her as well over the gradually. In the end, if you will realize that she becomes a more confident woman, she starts accepting things around her, and it's like being winner. It's like she is winning in that because she has actually started accepting things, and that is a very big thing it's a very big thing, and it's a very important thing as well. Also about talking about the patriarchal setup and how male child is given a preference, and how patriarchal setup is prevalent in Indian society as well, is when Madhav's family comes into the narration, and it's like the description about his family just comes and goes literally. So it's not, there is not constant talk about it in the book. It just comes and goes, and whenever he talks to Saru about it, and how his family is also part of the patriarchal setup where his mother does not have a say, and how his father is the controlling one in the house, and how they do not have, they're like almost there is a lack of freedom of speech. Like they are not supposed to have opinions. They have to only follow their father's footsteps and what their father says. So that also talks about how patriarchal setup is, when the father is the owner and father's choices are the last, and you're not supposed to oppose him, or you're not even supposed to go against his will, and you do not have a right to at least present your opinions. So also that also talks about the patriarchal setup, and that's it. I think I have mostly covered most of the thematic concerns which I know about. There are many, and you will find a lot of material about the thematic concerns, ideologies, various perspectives, issues which are covered in this book. So you will find a lot of material about it. I'll try to post in the description section. I'll try to mention as many as possible reference links for you, so that you can also read them, and you will have an idea that what are researchers trying to say, and what are different perspectives people have about it, and what are different lenses through which you can explore this book and read about this book. So yes, so this was my review of The Dark Holes No Terror. I hope you find this review very helpful, and I've tried to critically basically analyze this book. So I hope you find this very helpful, and if you have any suggestions, and if you feel that there are thematic concerns, or there are issues which I have not, ideologies, or which I haven't explored, and you feel that I should be knowing about them as well, so please let me know in the comment section below. Also, please let me know, how do you find this video? Are you finding it helpful, or do you want me to make more videos on critical analysis, where I'm talking about where I'm exploring different characters and plots, and basically critical analysis of the book. So if you really want me to do that, please let me know in the comment section below as well. And please let me know, do you really like my videos? And if you like my video, please click on the like button, and let me know your suggestions, feedbacks in the comment section below. And I hope you share this with your friends as well. So please share my video, and if you are new to my channel, please subscribe to my channel, and for more such videos and reviews, stay tuned to my channel. Bye guys, take care.